Did you see how he got kicked out of
I
the
did.
game? That
I
was,
did.
that was so weird.
Yeah, I mean, but referees are stupid. I don't even know how to articulate that in a better way. Like referees are dumb. Like you see a couple moments every year of when refs seem to get power hungry and exhort their power upon the players, and it's just like you could throw them out. That pass hit him in the lower area, foot, shin, whatever, and it was a bounce pass. He didn't hit you in your chest. He didn't. And he put a little English on it. Get the ball and go. Like it's that simple. I understand some circumstances of like you're doing too much for the ref, right? But then you get situations like this where it's like it wasn't like you underhand toss the ball to the ref or whatever. But then you get situations like this or situations where they was a situation Tim Tim Duncan stared at him or like you know what I mean like or laughing on the bench. A situation people staring at like things like okay when you start ejecting people for that kind of stuff it's like what are you doing? Um, you know, but the NBA refs have situations like this every year where they might get into their feelings and be, you know, feeling like they're treated badly or undermined or by the people who are actually playing the games, not the people who are just run up and down the court blowing whistles. But whatever. I digress.
Go ahead, Calvin. I know you was talking
No,
about this earlier.
so I mean, one, I feel like this year in particular, not just with the NBA, but in general, I feel like even like on here, like I've complained about the refs a fair bit, and but like, and some, and like a, like not gonna get into it a whole lot, but apparently, Mark Cuban kind of like in some, I guess, recent interview, he went in on like the refing and like the fact that apparently they are that it's like trash in a very fundamental way. Like not in like a no, like not in just like the calls you make, right? But in terms of like the training dudes get and like who you hire, like in a very basic fundamental way. Like it starts at the very beginning. Um, assuming everything he says is correct. I have no reason to think man's lying, but like, but also it's just like it feels like one, it's just been kind of bad, which kind of kills the flow of games and such. But also like bad revving in the wrong places can decide games, right? Um, and like this is getting away a little from the Celtics Pelicans game in part because I didn't really watch it, but like the game last night, the Clippers and the Nets, right? I think it was like the last like second to last or something possession of the game, right? But like near the end of the game, a couple seconds left. I think the Nets are up by like two, right? Harden is guarding. Yeah, Harden was guarding Kawhi, right? And like Harden gets beat. Like, and regardless of how you want to feel about defense, if you are shoulder to shoulder with the dude you're defending, you've gotten beat. And like Harden, I guess early in like on the drive, kind of like swiped and whatever. Kawhi is trying to get him off, just and like goes up basically like this, right? Harden flop, like just or whatever, and they call a charge. They called a charge, and it's just like you could have just you didn't even have to call anything. You could have just let it be decided by whether or not dude's gonna make the layup. It wasn't even a good call. Like it's I don't know, that bothers me deeply.
Refereeing that decides games is bad refereeing. I think that's like
I,
simple.
yeah,
But
that's fair.
does a
Like,
referee always decide the game?
No, not
there's
always because the you got to weigh it out, right? And usually when you weigh it out, it's not from like some it's not from like some analytic, right? It's not from like an hindsight thing. Once you watch a game, you're like you can just tell like this ref has a little too much of an impact in the game
Yeah.
because once the ref has impact in the early in the game, then like players. are affected by the calls. You know what I mean? What should they do? What can they do? What can they not do? So on and so forth. And it's not the rules of the game; it's the rules of the individual ref. So all of a sudden, it's you get down to ending possessions, and then you have situations like that happened with Kawhi and James Harden yesterday. But my question is, and I heard somebody say that the best NBA players in all of history have taken advantage offensively, have taken advantage of the rules, right? So
Yeah.
like James Harden, like nowadays, the players coming off of screens don't come off screens to make decisions. They come off screens to shoot the three and hope to get fouled on the 3 point line. You know what I mean? And I wonder if, and this is from like a pretty reliable person I listen to on like a podcast, whatever, about NBA basketball. And I wonder if that same thought process can be put into defense. Like, yeah, it's bad defense, yeah, whatever. But at the end of the day, they are taking advantage, and I do hate it. Like, I don't want it to seem like I like flopping, but they are taking advantage of the softness of the NBA. Like, and it's the exact same. I think it's the exact same thing as the flop on the 3 point line when you're shooting the three, right? Like you shoot three, you don't even want to make the three. You just flare your hands in the air, just hoping the ref calls something. And I
Yeah.
think on defense it's kind of the exact same thing. And it's just taking advantage of once again the softness of the NBA. What do you think about that?
So, if I may, I think like it. Well, one, I think it's in general just harder to like take advantage of the rules on the defensive side of the ball because one, the rules are not on your side, right? In when in doubt, they err on the side of the offense, right? And that's before we get into the fact that like part of taking advantage of like the rules or whatever is less so much taking advantage of the rules themselves, but how they are enforced, right? Because like the thing is, especially like if when they do it where like a dude is already set, come around. Let's say they went under the screen or whatever, or like tried to like just get jumped into like the situation where like you got the pump fake and whatever, and dude goes straight up and you just jump into him or whatever, right? Like that should be like a no call or like an offensive anything, not because the defender had position. And like and according to the rules, unless I've forgotten or something, you can jump straight up, and that's perfectly fine, right? That's not like you shouldn't be getting a foul called on you because you jumped straight up and the dude jumped into you, right?
Yeah.
But that's not how a lot of this stuff is called, right? It's called very much on the side of the offense where like a lot of like you can get called for just about any contact, give or take your reputation, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because Zion definitely doesn't get the calls that already. Like already, he's not getting calls that like other players are getting. It's a little ridiculous.
You might get some of that LeBron syndrome, where it's just like you too big, you too strong.
But the thing is,
all that.
you can't give everyone the LeBron syndrome because LeBron's one in a lifetime individual who doesn't get hurt. Other people get hurt. So do
Exactly.
you want them to get hurt? Do you want face Leeds to get hurt? Because a lot of them aren't doing the James Harden where you just extend through and you just go for the arms. They're over here trying to like go to the rim and make a bucket, but they're just so big that you can't call it's ridiculous. And but when you talk about like the straight up on the three, a lot of what they call is actually, which is once again the players taking advantage of this, coming down like impeding the landing of the shooter, and that's why now a lot of the 3 point shooters are jumping forward instead of straight up on the jump shots. Like they want to create that, which is someone one day is gonna get very, 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 very hurt on this tactic. But it's a new tactic, right? Of like the last couple of years to, oh, they're gonna call this to impede my progress coming down, then I'm going to jump to you. And the NBA has not, or if NBA officiating at least, the players adjusted. The NBA or the offensive players adjusted at least. The defensive players still trying to figure out what's going on. But the rules have not adjusted to help the defense player out. But I don't think they're going to try their hardest to make that happen because the more offensive the game, the more money they'll make because the more exciting in quotes. Uh, so I doubt that there's going to be stringent changes with that. And they're just hoping for generations to die off who remember it as something else.
Yeah. Well, with you saying that, do you think it is because officiating at all levels is trash right now? High school basketball is laughable. We complain about it every year. Shot clock, blah blah blah. But this year is like really bad. They're just rewarding kids for being in front of people, and they'll get like a charge call, like feet still moving, like dude doesn't even have the ball anymore. They'll still call it. At the college level, if there's any type of contact, there's going to be a call. Even like NFL, WNBA, we saw that they were complaining about calls all year. Is this a good sign if you're complaining about the officials, because they are basically the opposing team in a way at this point?
I don't know how much of this is dependent on the fact that the referees can hear and see everything without the pressure of a crowd behind them. Because in a lot of places, there's not as much of a crowd, right? There's even if there's a crowd, it's a little bit of a crowd.
Right.
But with that being the case, they're they're officiating differently than they ever have before because of unforeseen and different circumstances.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the crowd behind, like if you're a ref, I don't care what you say. If you're a ref and a crowd is booing at you and cussing you out kind of stuff, that affects you in some kind of way. Like I don't care how stone cold you are, unless you're literally a serial killer, that's going to affect you in some kind of way. So I do think that the lack of a crowd presence is allowed, especially in like basketball, where the ref can just focus on the game itself and not the crowd. And the ref can hear certain things outside of, because there's no crowd and so on and so forth. I do think that's making a difference. And that's for all, basketball levels, high school, college, and NBA.
So, kind of dovetailing real quick, there was a book I read a while ago. It basically said a decent chunk of like home field advantage in most sports basically boil down to the crowd, right? Like, because the crowd, like you said, can affect how refs ref. So in that respect, yeah, some of it is probably the fact that they don't have, thousands of people booing them all of a sudden because of a, bad call or a questionable call. But I feel like part of the issue with why people complain about the refs isn't so much that like it isn't just like, oh, you never call anything or like you call everything. Is it there doesn't feel like there's consistency to the calls, right? You call a touch foul on one end of the floor and then like a no call when a dude gets clobbered on the other end. Or maybe even the same end. And I think when we complain about it, that's most of it. It's just like we like some consistency to it, and we'd like to feel like it doesn't decide games. And even with questionable officiating, it doesn't necessarily decide games until like you get down at the end and you make a bad call or something. But like that's not where the bulk of the bad officiating comes in. But like officiating bad is going to have an effect on the game. I don't think it's necessarily. I'm not sure if they're necessarily in opposition of players, but like you're going to get pushback if your job is to enforce the rules of like this arena, this sport we're playing, and like you don't do it like fairly evenly. I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but like you call the same type of calls on both ends of the floor consistently. Like call the same type of stuff fairly consistently. Um, and also with like the defense and like having to adjust to like what offensive players like how offensive players the ways they find to abuse the rules effectively in some of the cases that we're talking about. Like you said, the jumping forward thing, which I haven't really noticed. Maybe I just haven't been paying attention. But like,
Excuse me.
as a defender, right? There's not a whole lot you can do about that, right? Not because the thing is, if they're jumping towards you, like you're already there. Like what am I? So like, what are you supposed to do? Get out of the way or something? Like you're still trying to play defense. Like what am I supposed to do? Not fight over the pick or like go under the pick or like play actual defense.
Yeah.
And like the way these things get called, it makes it next to impossible to actually play defense. It's like I can't. It's like I can't touch him. Can't stand in front of him. I can't look at him funny. But like with any luck, I can smack the shit out of him and not get called for it.
As long as you miss their head, because even if it's on accident and you're going for the ball, that's a flagrant.
Once again, Calvin McGowan, hope you enjoyed yourself. Um, if you are watching on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, leave something in the comments. Um, you can also listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. If you made it this far, once again, thank you. I hope you got a lot done of whatever it was you were working on while listening to this. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.